consensus on or not in order to give that direction to staff.
Does everyone agree that we need an emergency provision for getting somebody money if they are out of town or out of the country and they're traveling? That right now, the way the policy is written, just to clarify that if somebody is in that situation, there is a clear way for them to get help. Is everyone in agreement with that?
It sounds reasonable to me. Lisa, are you aware of any comparable policy in other cities in Virginia that deal with that issue? I assume that it's controlled in some way by state law, so the experience of other jurisdictions might be helpful.
I am not aware of anything specific, but in my opinion, an emergency travel expense would just be a category of travel expense that is authorized. And what we need to do is, on the assumption that someone's city credit card is the reason why they're left stranded, we need to, I would recommend that emergency provision authorize the city manager to arrange assistance to that counselor and go from there.
Excellent. So we've got a place to go on that. Secondarily, do we need to add who and why you are having a meal, coffee, whatever, a meeting of which you are the only one who is eating? The counselor is the only one who's eating. No, not being purchased. We're not purchasing for somebody else. But does the who and why, should that be listed on the receipt? I guess I'm asking legal on that, or anybody else.
That's a question of what's required for audits, correct?
Yeah, it seemed like that's what Mr. Cullinan said was required for audit.
Okay, so we need to add that then into the policy. Just to be clear and specific, I think. I would appreciate having that in there personally. A staff appreciation policy that allows any counselor then to spend up to $50 in an instance of, birthday, work anniversary, specific holiday related to their job, a sympathy or get well instance.
Speaking for myself, just speaking for myself as staff, I would not expect you to spend
I know
that, so it would be totally, don't feel obligated based on what you think we want.
I just thought it would be nice to have a policy in there that allowed that to happen.
I think that's important, whatever the amount is. I usually try to keep it, I'm very careful about the dollars I spend. So I usually make the flower arrangements myself, buy the vase, and, sign the card from council. So it's not just one person. So I think that we should be able to do things like that. But
I agree.
I think putting in up to $50 is a good, because that way we're not going to be readdressing this in the next year and the next year.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that we have to go. But then would this be positions that report directly to us, or also including the department?
I think you should reply to just our direct council office.
So that would be 3 people then, correct?
And right now, yes.
Okay.
I think, but we also have I think it should just be council. There's the attorney, the city manager, finance.
So anyone who directly reports to us, either we share, yeah, that's true.
So that's how many?
I don't think we have to list. I just think any direct reports to council would cover it.
Okay.
So just, I mean, again, technically your direct reports are city manager, finance director, and Ms. Thomas.
Not the city attorney?
Attorney, what happened to that position?
That the city attorney's position by charter reports to the city manager.
So report, but there's a 50-50, right, for council with the city attorneys.
The city
The hire.
council needs to consent to being the person being hired and consent to the person being fired, but day-to-day supervision is with the city manager.
So does all of that sound good to proceed with that?
I would like it to be open to all of council's staff, which is more than Ms. Thomas.
Yes, that's what I meant. Is that
I have-
good?
No objection.
So then there's the policy about purchases of goods and services. Again, this is really about when we are engaging the services of a professional for some reason to come before council as a public body for their expertise.
I'm fine with us having a set amount for each individual counselor, but I think my preference is that we try to work through the council office for these purchases.
And I will prefer whatever that amount is to be able to work within it and not have to go through staff.
So is $1,000 for the purchases of goods and services. Again, this is, it cannot cover non-council appointed bodies. Huh?
I don't think that really matters because the bigger, that was $150 transaction for the entire time I've been here.
But it does give the flexibility that if something comes up where a counselor wants a specific person to speak on that topic and wants to reimburse them, they can do so. And it won't have any questions, and it can be a relatively quick turnaround without having to try to get a vote by council. So, it addresses an issue that we wouldn't have considered before.
Well, I'm probably gonna be outvoted on this. I just don't think we should be doing it at all without approval of council. So put me down for a 0.
All right, I don't even know where we're at on this. I'm for that. Anybody else for it?
I think it's helpful, but I don't think it's I mean, this is just one part of the thing that I am still trying to figure out.
Yes, I'm just trying to break it down into pieces that we can actually work on change.
So Michael, what are your thoughts so we can get to the public and get out of here?
I mean, I don't quite see the purpose of it because there's still the state law is the issue. I feel like it's the fundamental thing on this component. So we're breaking off a very small piece that is allowed under the state law. I have no objection to it. I just not sure how often it would realistically ever be utilized, but I have no objection to it.
Okay, so we could just say up to 1,000. That's done. Probably nobody will use it, but it's there. Okay, what's next?
Then we have the issue about coordinating meals for council's dinner.
I feel like even if, you know, those meetings are late, staff is there too, other people, public are able to eat. I do feel like that it's something that we should continue doing. I know when we go over to, like, when we were going over to the county, they would, it just seems like something that's just very traditional. But I don't always even participate in that. So I understand if, but I do think that especially council meetings moving post-pandemic and stuff, that there will be people who, you know, will, I know when people have not ordered, when it was not those meals that they have tried to figure out late into the evening, like what does that look like? So I don't think that is an unhelpful thing.
Ms. Thomas, could you let us know if you have any ideas about how to make this a little bit more streamlined, I guess?
There's a lot that goes into the preparation. I would say if we were to coordinate it from our office, I guess we would just do like we have been doing with rotating vendors, which once we started doing that, we got feedback from certain individuals who decided, well, who said that if I had known we were having this tonight, I would have eaten at home. Or, you know, there's dynamics with no matter who we choose to go with for any particular meal. And then we're left at the end of a meeting when everyone else is walking out the door and I'm still packing away leftover food and trying to figure out what to do with it. So
Okay.
I don't know if the effort is worth what we're getting out of it. And I almost feel like if people are going to choose other meals besides what we provide, then maybe every man for himself, every person for themselves, sorry. It's up to you all because we'll do what we need to do. And I know that there are staff who don't get a break and they do appreciate just being able to run by, pick up a meal and continue on with their work. So it is helpful. It's just a matter of how we manage it.
What
That
does
was
it
my
typically
bigger
cost
concern
us?
was, sorry.
What does it typically cost us per meeting?
We keep it under 300. We did find a vendor who was very good at keeping it below 200, and that included the full meal for about anywhere between 10 and 15 people.
So roughly $5,000 if that vendor were the person each time.
And they did deliver, and we did find some who were better at delivery than others.
Okay.
Well, for me, a lot of it has to do more with staff because some of them have worked the entire day through and then are staying on for council meetings. But I do think that if we can keep this to be an efficient process and it's something that between our office and the city manager's office, we can kind of collaborate on. I certainly don't want this to be a taxing exercise for anyone, especially at the late hours that we're wrapping up. But I do think that it does provide value for staff, especially, including our own staff.
Well, I think $5,000, if we can provide a significant benefit to folks who are busting their rear ends for us for maybe 14 hours at a stretch is appropriate. So I'm fine with that.
And sounds fine to me. Again, not sure what, if anything, we would change in the policy relative to it, but
I think it really would just be among you all to decide, you know, what places are off the table, and it doesn't have to go in the policy. It's just a matter of you all deciding what you want, what you don't want, and then we'll work from there.
Okay.
All right, seeing anything else?
So,
No, I mean, that's the other thing was the oversight piece really quick was, are we comfortable with the way that the oversight piece is listed that, once a month we'll be, I guess in our meeting, we'll be going over
Well,
and
I
just.
just want to be able to have it available to us. I don't need to have it be a formal process, but just to have a place where we can access it and just have a chance to just look through expenditures that are going against our budget.
Well, I also think it's a little bit more than that, that we will now be looking at this. And if there are any things that concern us, we have to address them amongst ourselves. Staff, it's off of staff's shoulder to be bring anything to our attention. And
Mhm.
I have much more concerns about, potential future issues, and I'm talking years in the future. And that, the procedure that we know that we are then also have this duty that is on our shoulders to say, hey, this is not okay, and we have to take action about it. I just want to make sure.
I'm fine with it. It may not be the perfect system, but let's give it a start. We'll find out.
The third idea I had during this time was if maybe like our auditor company or something. I'd also mentioned at one point, maybe the treasurer's office. I think Jason, if he hears this,
It just seems like adding complexity that's not needed.
I don't think it is either, but I was just, just bringing it up that, having an outside, the only other option I could think about would be an outside agency that's, totally removed from anything, that just checks things and has absolutely no one has any concern.
Yeah, we need to process the current auditors, because if this has been a problem and it's been something that they missed, then we need to, again, look at that process, which is also something that the last administration brought up about how these auditors audit. So maybe that is something that Mr. Boyles can look into and figure out if that's something that needs to change.
Mayor, if I can, yes, we definitely can do that. I don't think that this is going to be that complicated of an issue. But the other thing that we did add to this policy that we haven't had a chance to touch on is that it will be fluid. There will be the need to revise this. And we've worked into the policy that we will have an orientation on this with every new council. So in January, when a new member or new members of council come on board, we will go through this so that, number one, new people will know what to do, what not to do. The second thing is the existing counselors will also have the ability to review this and go, hey, for the last year, this has been an issue. Staff, try to correct it. So, this will be something that will be fluid and we'll continue to look at.
Okay, are we ready for public comment?
Well, really, I just think that the bigger thing that I think we all do want to figure out the best way to tackle, though, is I think it's not any one thing is going to serve everything, but I think we have to, as individuals, let's figure out what are those things that we want to make sure that we are providing funding for people who are coming to the table and participating, that we want to have voices at the table, but going through with the guidelines that Ms. Robertson has laid out. And I know we're not going to solve all that tonight, but that's something I think there is broad council support for achieving. But I think it does start with obviously us making some of these bodies public, or working with a city manager to form work groups that can fall under that guidance. So I do see that as kind of a loose end here, but it's one I think there's broad council support for, and we just probably need to take it on a case by case basis and determine and think among ourselves about what kinds of restrictions or what kind of income hurdles that we would want to have in place for that. So I just think that's still an outstanding thing that we're not going to solve tonight.
Well, and I'll just add that the current board of commissions application does not have a place on it for salary or income. So if that's going to be a requirement, then we would need to update our materials here.
Maybe once we figure that out, it would be updated to say something about, do you,
But
would you like to apply for,
I think
my brain's dead, I'm sorry.
not a conversation.
Discuss this on the 5th more further. Michael, were you saying something?
Oh, just that I think that's a separate conversation from the policies and procedures.
I agree.
Yeah, just as long as we can have it soon, because that's been, I think, the bulk of while I landed here and we were having this 3+ hour discussion. So if this can go on for a discussion for April 5th?
I don't see what more there's left to discuss about the policy and procedure. The item of compensation for boards and commissions seems like a separate item entirely. It's just now there's a mechanism under the policy and procedures to allow it, but I don't know what we're going to get from discussing this document that
We don't have to discuss this. I'm not voting for it, but I would like to see it written clearly with the changes before there's a vote on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, on the 5th. Yes.
Okay. And then a discussion of how do we engage with citizens, participatory research and engagement, and what does that look like? Okay. Are we ready for public comment now?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you, Mayor Walker. And I want to apologize to the audience that was watching on Facebook or on the Boxcast stream. That timed out at 6 o'clock. And sorry about that mistake. We are recording this part of the meeting. We'll upload that video separately. If you'd like to address council, you can have up to 3 minutes. Just click the raise hand icon in the Zoom webinar. We currently have 10 people in the audience. If anyone would like to speak to council, click the raise hand icon.
Okay. Nobody raised their hand.
No takers.
All right. So thank you all. Have a good evening. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you all. Really appreciate the work.
Thank you all.